All rise. United States District Court for the Eastern District of Midlands is now in session. The Honorable Christopher J. Lyons is presiding.
You all may be seated. Before we begin, are there any pretrial matters from the state of Midlands?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what are they?
Your Honor, we would ask to make appearances for the record.
Absolutely.
My name is Samuel Johnson, and I will be delivering the closing. To my left is Nanisha Chimulapudi, and she'll be delivering the opening. And to my right is Jake Forrest.
Is there any other further pretrial matter from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. We would ask for your preference for objections. Would you prefer that we object and state the rule number only, or also state a brief basis for the objection?
When you object, please state the basis for the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. And do we have permission to move freely about the well?
Absolutely. I would only ask that you ask permission prior to approaching your witness.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the state would ask to approach and pre-mark 4 exhibits.
Are there any objections?
No, Your Honor, as long as I'm also able to approach with my exhibits.
We'll wait for that until they're done with their pretrial stuff.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may approach.
This is actually state something. This is the state. Yeah.
Anything else from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the state would move to enter what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 1 into evidence.
And what exhibit is State's Exhibit 1?
Your Honor, is the autopsy performed by Dr. Ooms. All objections to its admissibility have been waived.
I suppose there aren't any objections, are there?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted. Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, is there any pretrial matters from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. First, we also ask to be able to introduce ourselves.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the jury. My name is Sean Cleaver. Today I will conduct the direct examination of Alex Grace and the cross-examination of Dr. Lee Jordano. I will also make the closing arguments for the defense.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the jury. My name is Elizabeth Flannery, and today I will conduct the direct examination of Adrian Malone and the cross-examination of Hunter Baxamusa.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the jury. My name is Sam Weinstein. Today I will conduct the direct examination of Lauren Charney and the cross-examination of Casey Maxwell. I will also deliver the opening statement on behalf of the defense.
Your Honor, we now ask that our witnesses and timekeeper be allowed to introduce themselves.
No, that won't be necessary. Is there any other further pretrial matters?
Yes, Your Honor. To clarify moving freely about the courtroom, would you like us to ask before approaching witnesses?
Yes, that's what I meant to say. It said you are free moving about the well. Just ask before you approach the witness.
Your Honor, also pursuant to Rule 615, we ask that all witnesses constructively be excluded from this trial other than the defendant, Jackie Owens, and the official party for the state, Dr. Lee Jordano.
And is that who the party for the state is going to be?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, they will be sequestered constructively.
Your Honor, we also ask you to approach the bailiff to have our exhibits marked for the trial.
Absolutely. Is there anything further from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. One last thing. How would you like us to treat the swearing of witnesses?
The witnesses will be presumed to be sworn in when they take the stand.
Yes, Your Honor. With that, the defense is ready to proceed.
All right, we'll hear the opening statement from the people of the state of Midlands.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Gambling. To some people, they seek the thrill of adventure as they risk everything on the roll of the dice. Craving excitement, they cast aside their morals, their integrity, and even their humanity as they follow the dark trail of their gambling addiction. In 2008, movie director Jackie Owens had all the trappings of success. He had earned millions as a partner in Trifecta Entertainment and owned several exotic cars, including a dark Maserati. However, it was Jackie Owens' addiction to gambling that was his secret flaw. And this flaw proved fatal to business partner Jacob Bennett. Today, the evidence will show that Mr. Owens had a $5 million gambling debt, a debt he was being pressured to pay. Gambling debts began to pile up faster than the company could produce movies. And in May of 2008, Mr. Owens contacted his car dealer, Adrian Malone, about cashing in one of his prized exotic cars. But even this was not enough. And on June 6, 2008, Trifecta Entertainment received a buyout offer from Dueling Lens Studio. This offer would have paid Mr. Jackie Owens $8 million immediately upon closing. Mr. Owens, of course, wanted to take this offer. However, Mr. Bennett, who owed the controlling share of Trifecta Entertainment, refused. 10 days after he rejected the Dueling Lens deal, Mr. Bennett went missing. And 23 days later, his body was found near the Calkins Cliffs near the Midlands Marina by the Midland State Police, as Jacob's grieving wife, Mariah, looked on. Today, the state of Midlands has a burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Jackie Owens knowingly, purposefully, or recklessly killed Jacob Bennett. We embrace this burden. As you listen to the details of the case today, use your reason and your common sense to search for the truth. And the truth will show you that Jackie Owens is guilty of the murder of Jacob Bennett. Today, you will also hear from third business partner at Trifecta Entertainment, Casey Maxwell. Ms. Maxwell will tell you how she and Jackie Owens plotted together to kill Jacob Bennett. Ms. Maxwell will tell you how she left her gun at her boat near the Midlands Marina for Jackie Owens to use in the murder. Ms. Maxwell will tell you how she and Jackie Owens lured Jacob Bennett to the Midlands Marina on the night of June 16, 2008, gambling that no one would see the murder in such a secluded spot. However, their gamble failed, for a witness to the crime, Hunter Baxamusa, arrived at the Calkins Cliff to observe a lunar eclipse. Ms. Baxamusa will tell you how she saw someone the same size and gender of Jackie Owens arrive at the Midlands Marina in a dark Maserati, and then climb towards a boat at the pier. Ms. Baxamusa will tell you how shortly thereafter she saw a small man arrive in a taxi and walk towards that same boat. During the lunar eclipse, Ms. Baxamusa will tell you she heard yelling, followed by gunshots. And once the eclipse had ended, Ms. Baxamusa will tell you how she saw the first person load a heavy object into the back of the Maserati before driving away along a path in front of the cliffs. Shortly after Jacob Bennett was reported missing, police spoke with employees at Trifecta Entertainment. Chief Crime Scene Investigator Lee Jordano will tell you how during his investigation, he found blood and bleach on Casey Maxwell's boat. Chief Jordano will also tell you how he found fingerprints on the boat, prints which matched Jackie Owens. Today, the defense will tell you another story. They will say the defendant was at a friend's house the night of the murder, having dinner. However, as you listen to their story, listen carefully to the details and inconsistencies in their case, and use your reason and common sense to see the truth. Today, the state will show you that the pressure from her millions of dollars of gambling debts forced Jackie Owens to gamble one last time. She went all in that she could fool the law and get away with the murder of Jacob Bennett. At the end of today's case, my co-counsel Samuel Johnson will review the facts and the law and ask you to see the truth, that Jackie Owens is guilty of the murder of Jacob Bennett. Thank you.
An opening from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
May it please the court. When Jacob Bennett was murdered in 2008, Jackie Owens lost more than a business partner. She lost more than a $20 million company. She lost a dear friend. and a mentor. Now, all she has left is her freedom. But for you to take that away, the state must hit what gamblers call a trifecta. Opposing counsel came up here and talked to you about gambling. But the fact is, it's the state who's placed a bet. Now, when betting on horse racing, to hit a trifecta means to get the order of the first 3 horses exactly right. There is no room for error. Today, the state's burden is no different. They must prove 3 things to you beyond any reasonable doubt. No room for error. They must prove when Jacob Bennett was killed, how he was killed, and who killed him. But they won't, because Jackie Owens is innocent. Good afternoon. I'm Sam Weinstock, and I, along with my co-counsel, Elizabeth McGlamory and Sean Kleber, represent Ms. Owens in today's case. Ms. Owens sits before you cloaked in the presumption of innocence, which means she is and will remain innocent unless and until the state can hit their trifecta. The state's burden is a heavy one, because a reasonable doubt is any doubt would cause an ordinary person to pause or hesitate when making an important decision in his or her own life. First, the state must prove the when, that Jacob Bennett was killed on June 16th, because before that date, he was seen alive, and from June 17th to June 28th, Jackie Owens was in Europe. To do that, the state will rely on Dr. Prescott Oom's estimate for the time of death, which the state's own investigator, Lee Jordano, will admit is riddled with error. Listen instead to when Dr. Lauren Charney, a professor in forensic science, takes the stand and tell you that Jacob Bennett must have died when Jackie Owens wasn't even in the country. Jackie Owens wasn't at Midlands Marina on June 16th anyway. Actor Alex Graves will take the stand and tell you how he spent the entire evening with Ms. Owens at his home until Jackie left after midnight. Next, the state must prove the how. How was Jacob Bennett killed? They don't have a murder weapon. They can't even be sure what type of gun fired the bullet. Listen, when Detective Lee Jordano rushed to judgment, he thought that Jackie Owens was the lead suspect before he even recovered a body. Listen for how the state tries to fill the gaps in their case with physical evidence that is at best circumstantial and inconclusive. Finally, the state must prove the who. That it was Jackie Owens who shot Jacob Bennett purposefully or knowingly. Hunter Baxamusa, the only alleged eyewitness in this case, will tell you that she saw an argument between 2 people in Midlands Marina on the night of June 16th. But she won't be able to tell you the clothing, the hair, the ethnicity, the body shape of the person she claims she saw. And Adrian Malone, the luxury car dealer who sold Miss Owens her Maserati, will tell you that the car Miss Baxamusa saw could not have belonged to Jackie Owens. The state will want you to believe that Miss Owens was desperate for money. Yes, she gambled. Yes, she had some debt. But you'll see today she had sufficient evidence, she had sufficient assets to pay down those debts. Listen instead for all the people who really did have a motive to kill Jacob Bennett. Listen for Ronald Victory, for Alex Grace, for Josh DeSmith, all of whom were in danger of having their careers or reputations ruined by Jacob Bennett. We're the defense. We have no burden in this case. We don't have to prove anything. The state, on the other hand, must eliminate any possibility from your minds that any one of those people killed Jacob Bennett. And there's Casey Maxwell, who you'll see had her own reason for killing Jacob Bennett. 6 years of torment and humiliation. See if there's a possibility that she did all by herself. Remember, the state has to hit a trifecta. They must prove the when, the how, and the who. But they won't. There will be reasonable doubt in each of your minds about each of those 3 elements at the end of today's case. Even if there isn't. Even if you have to pause or hesitate about a single one of those 3 things. That's reasonable doubt. And the state still has not met their burden. At the end of the trial today, my co-counsel Sean Kleber will come before you and ask that you return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Is the prosecution ready with their first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Hunter Baxamusa to the stand.
Okay. You may take the stand, Ms. Baxamusa. You are presumed sworn in.
Would you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Baxamusa.
Ms. Baxamusa, what do you do?
Well, I'm a student in college, but I'm especially interested in astronomy.
Ms. Baxamusa, do you recall the evening of June 16th, 2008?
I do.
And where were you at the time?
I was at the Calkins Cliffs. It is overlooking Midlands Marina.
Your Honor, permission to use states a demonstrative one for illustrative purposes only?
Granted.
Your Honor, may the witness step down from the stand for the purpose of illustrating to the jury what happened that night?
Are there any objections?
No objection, Your Honor. However, I ask that I be able to move to see this witness's testimony.
Absolutely. Witness may step down.
Ms. Baxamusa. Where were you that night?
I was here, right where the tree is printed. That is the Calkins Cliffs.
And what time did you arrive there?
I got to the cliffs around 9:30 on my bike, and I immediately started to set up my telescope where the tree is.
What is the lighting like down in the marina?
Well, there are not too many lights. There are a few here around the parking lot, but it is a full moon, so you can still see fairly well.
Now, Ms. Baxamusa, why were you near the marina that night?
Well, you see, there was a lunar eclipse that was supposed to happen that night at 10:30, and the Calkins Cliff is the best observation point in Midlands.
Ms. Baxamusa, were there any cars in the marina parking lot when you arrived there?
No, not at first, not when I got there, but at 10 o'clock, a Maserati pulled in, a black Maserati Quattroporte. It was beautiful. It came down here, down Marina Road.
Now, why do you say that car was a Maserati?
Well, you see, I love cars, especially Maseratis, especially Maserati Quattroportes. They're my favorite car. I've gone to dealerships to look at them. I look at them on YouTube, and I even
Objection, Your Honor. This witness is being non-responsive. The attorney asked a question about why the witness said that that car that she saw in the parking lot was a Maserati. She's now answering as to why she loves Maseratis.
What's your response?
Your Honor, the witness was merely explaining how she knew the car was a Maserati.
Well, I think you can ask that question, and the objection is sustained.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Baxamusa, could you state briefly how you knew the car was a Maserati?
Well, I've studied these cars for a very long time because I like them so much, and so I've looked at them at dealerships and memorized posters and models and different features and options. So I know them very well.
But what did the car do once it pulled into the parking lot?
Well, you see, this was kind of odd because it turned off its headlights right here at the beginning of the parking lot, but it did not stop until it got to the van, which is where the Maserati Quattroporte parked.
Did anyone get out of the car?
Yes, one person got out of the driver's seat, but that was all.
And what did that person do next?
Well, they walked down the pier and got in a boat where the number 2 is.
Could you describe the person for us?
Yes, it was a female around 5'7". I could tell the height because I know a Maserati Quattroporte is 4 feet and 8 inches, so comparatively to the car, I could tell the height.
Were you able to see the name of the boat that the person walked into?
Well, I used my telescope to try and read the name, but you see, my telescope inverts the image, so it was pretty difficult to read. But I think it said the Helpburn.
Thank you, Ms. Baxamusa. Your Honor, may the witness return to the stand?
Absolutely.
Ms. Baxamusa, did any other cars pull into the marina parking lot after that?
Yes, at 10:32, a taxi pulled in. Somebody got out of the taxi and it then drove away.
Could you describe the person that you saw get out of the taxi?
It was a man, it will be a small man, and he was all dressed in black.
What did he do?
Then he also started to walk down the pier and get into the boat, but the lunar eclipse went into full effect right when he was in the middle of the pier.
What happened next, Ms. Baxamusa?
Well, the eclipse was amazing. It was absolutely pitch black. And I know that it lasted from 10:34 to 10:49 because I take detailed notes of my observations.
Ms. Baxamusa, did you hear anything while the eclipse was occurring?
Yes, I heard somebody scream.
Objection, Your Honor. This testimony is hearsay under Rule 801 and is inadmissible under Rule 802.
What's your response?
Your Honor, if I may proffer, the witness is going to testify to hearing two people having an argument, and our first response is that it would fall under the exception 803.2, excited utterance, as well as 801C, it's not being offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, merely to show that there was an argument occurring on the Marina Pier.
Okay, if you're offering it under the excited utterance exception, you haven't laid a proper foundation. If you're offering it not for the truth of the matter asserted, then I guess, what's your response to that objection?
Now, if I may be heard, if they're offering for not the truth of the matter asserted, it is still more prejudicial than probative under Rule 403 because they do not state the declarants of these statements, and therefore it would more prejudice the jury than help the probative value.
What's your response to that?
Your Honor, she's not saying who the people were, she's just merely saying that she witnessed two people in an argument on the pier.
Your Honor, if I may be heard, testifying to an argument that she doesn't know who was saying it and who was in that argument is more prejudicial because I make a proffer that the state is going to prove this argument was between the defendant and Jacob Bennett. Now, they're using this witness to show that this argument was related to the murder. However, they cannot tie that argument to any specific people. Therefore, it would be more prejudicial than probative under Rule 403.
Counsel, is there another rule that makes this particular conversation admissible?
No, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Baxamusa, did anything happen during the eclipse?
Well, yes, I heard two people arguing and fighting, but yes.
And what happened after you heard that?
Well, I heard a sound that sounded exactly like gunfire, and then I heard 4 more loud bangs, but those were probably just echoes from the eclipse.
What happened after the loud bangs?
Well, I did not hear anything else during the eclipse until 10:49 when the moon became visible again.
Did you see anyone down at the marina?
Well, first I looked over where the boat was, at the number 2, and I did not see anybody there. But I looked over at the one where the Maserati was parked, and I saw somebody struggling to load something into the trunk. Whatever it was heavy.
Did you recognize the person that you saw trying to load the trunk?
Yes, I am pretty sure it was the same person that got out of the Maserati before.
After that person finished loading the trunk, what did they do?
Well, they got in the car and they drove away, but they never turned their headlights back on.
And Ms. Baxamusa, in which direction did the car drive towards?
And you see, this was odd because instead of going back up Marina Road the way they came, the Maserati just sort of turned left along that dotted trail. I don't know what that dotted trail is, but that's the direction it went. I did not even know there was a road there.
Thank you, Ms. Baxamusa. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I ask, do I have permission to dismantle the demonstrative unless counsel would wish to use it?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
May I proceed?
You may.
Now, Ms. Baxamusa, on the night of June 16th, 2008, you were at Calkins Cliffs, correct?
Yes, I was.
You were on top of Calkins Cliffs, correct?
Yes, I was.
So that means that you were 200 feet above and several hundred feet away from the marina, correct?
Yes, roughly, around there.
And you were there at night.
Yes, I was.
Now, on direct, you testified that you saw a Maserati pull into the parking lot that night.
A Maserati Quattroporte.
That's right, you said it was a Maserati Quattroporte with custom-made purple xenon headlights.
Correct.
And on direct, you testified that you know a lot about Maseratis.
Yes, I do know a fair amount.
So you know that xenon headlights didn't come custom-made on Maseratis until 2006, correct?
Oh, yes, correct.
And you said that the Maserati that pulled into the parking lot was brand new.
Well, brand new as in there's 5 models of Quattroporte. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
That didn't answer my question.
Oh,
I asked you whether or not you thought the Maserati that pulled into the parking lot was brand new.
Yes, it was a 5th generation Maserati.
So you'd agree with me that that Maserati would be a 2006 model or later.
No.
But you agreed that in 2006 they changed the custom-made purple headlights on the Maserati?
They changed the headlights, but it was still a 5th generation Maserati.
And you agreed that the Maserati you saw had purple headlights?
Yes, it did.
And you agreed that you thought the Maserati you saw pull into the parking lot was brand new?
Brand new, as in the newest generation.
Now, you saw a person get out of this Maserati,
Yes, I did.
and you told us their gender and their height.
Yes, female, 5'7".
But you can't tell us their ethnicity?
No.
You can't tell us their hair color?
Well, no.
You can't tell us their size?
Well, I could tell that height.
No, and you couldn't tell us anything about that person except for their gender and their height.
Well, no, that is pretty specific.
Now you saw someone else pull up in a taxi,
Yes, I did see one person coming out of a taxi at 10:52.
but you couldn't really tell us much about that person either.
It was a small man dressed in black.
But you can't tell us their ethnicity,
No,
or their hair color,
no,
or their size.
no, it was a small man, though. That is.
Now, after that person got out of the taxi, you say the lunar eclipse went into full effect.
After they started to walk down the pier, yes.
And you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face, it was so dark.
Just during the eclipse, ma'am.
That's right, during the eclipse, it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
Correct.
Now, you say you heard an argument, but you don't know who that argument was between.
It was between the two people that got out of the cars, I assume.
But you don't know that for sure.
Not for sure, but I did not see anybody else there besides them.
And you can't even tell us the gender of the people who were arguing, correct?
Yes, I could.
Now, you didn't say that in your witness affidavit.
Well, I could tell the gender of the two people that got out of the cars, but.
But you did not see the two people arguing that you testified on direct.
No, I did not.
Now, you testified that after the lunar eclipse, you saw someone walk into the Maserati.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
You said that after the lunar eclipse, you saw someone dragging something to the Maserati.
Dragging something to the Maserati?
Ms. Baxamusa, did you or did you not see someone walking to the Maserati after the lunar eclipse? That you
No.
testified on direct.
I saw someone struggling to load something into the trunk.
That's right, you saw someone at the Maserati after the lunar eclipse.
Yes, at the Maserati. I never saw them walk to it.
But you're only pretty sure that that person at the Maserati was the same person you saw before.
99% positive.
Now, you didn't report this to the police the next day, did you?
Well, no.
You didn't report it the next week?
No, I reported as soon as I heard that the police had found a body.
That's right, you reported it 3 weeks later after it was reported on TV.
Well, yes, because I did not know that there was for sure a crime, and I was rather scared myself they would come after me.
And on TV, they said that anyone who brought forth information would be a hero.
See that? Oh, they must have. Maybe.
And you want to be a hero.
But I want to do what is right.
And you say the only regret is that you didn't shop your story to a higher bidder.
Well, yes, I'm a poor college student, so money would help to pay for classes, but I did not get paid to be here today.
Now, Your Honor, may I ask the defendant, Jackie Owens, to stand with me in the well?
Any objections?
Your Honor, the state has no objections to this matter.
Okay.
Ms. Owens, please join me in the well. Now, Ms. Baxamusa, as Ms. Owens stands before you, you cannot definitively tell the jury that Ms. Owens was at the marina that night.
Well, she's a female and she looks about 5'6".
That didn't answer my question, Ms. Baxamusa. I asked you whether or not you could definitively tell this jury whether or not Miss Owens was the woman you saw at the marina.
Well, if you're asking me to be 100% positive, no.
No further questions. You may be seated.
Redirect?
No redirect necessary, Your Honor.
Ready to excuse? Is the state ready to call our next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Calling Casey Maxwell to the stand. Ms. Maxwell, could you please say your name for the court?
My name is Casey Maxwell.
And why are you here today?
Because I made a terrible decision by helping kill Jacob Bennett, and I want to do what I can now to make things right.
Miss Maxwell, how did you know Mr. Jacob Bennett?
We were business partners along with Jackie Owens at Trifecta Entertainment, a company where we produce movies.
Now, Miss Maxwell, could you please explain to the court how the Trifecta partnership shares were divided amongst the three of you?
Yes. Jacob received 55%, Jackie received 40%, and I received 5% of the shares of the company because I was not as well known at the time.
And Miss Maxwell, did Trifecta's movies do relatively well at the box office?
Yes. In 2008, we released our first big hit, which ranked number 3 in the box office.
Now, as a partner in Trifecta Entertainment, were you aware of what the projected earnings for 2008 were?
Yes, we were projected to make $15 million before taxes.
And when will you receive your share of that profit?
At the end of the year. None of us could receive any of it until then.
Now, Miss Maxwell, with Trifecta's success, did it ever gather the attention of other companies?
Yes. On Friday, June 6th, Jackie, Jacob, and I learned that Dueling Lens Studio had offered to buy Trifecta for $20 million.
And if Trifecta chose to accept the offer, what would each of you receive out of the offer? Or what would you receive out of the offer?
I would receive $1 million payable immediately at closing, and then a $1 million consulting contract for 3 years.
Miss Maxwell, did the three of you discuss the offer?
Yes, that same day. Jackie and I both really wanted to take the deal, but Jacob was adamantly against it, refusing to even consider selling his studio.
Miss Maxwell, what was Miss Owens' response to Mr. Bennett's refusal of the offer?
Jackie pushed over a water cooler and yelled, "Mark my words, Jacob, this deal's going to happen." And then to that, Jacob just laughed, and then Jackie yelled at the top of his lungs, "I hope something terrible happens to your family, then maybe you'll understand." And then Jackie just stormed out of the room.
Miss Maxwell, did you and Miss Owens discuss the offer at any other time?
Yes. The next day, Jackie came into my office to talk with me. He asked me if I was happy with Trifecta and if I resented Jacob's power to keep us from taking the deal.
And what was your response to this, Miss Maxwell?
I insisted that I liked Jacob and appreciated the opportunity that he had given me.
What happened next?
After that, Jackie looked at me and in a very serious tone said, "Casey, I think Jacob might need to disappear."
Did Ms. Owens say anything else?
Yes, at that point she pulled out a copy of the Trifecta Partnership Agreement and pointed out that under provision number 17, if we called a meeting and Jacob failed to show up, then we could vote to accept the Dueling Lens deal without him. And then he told me about his plan.
What was Miss Owens' plan?
Well, all I know is I had to do 2 things. First, he asked me to give him one of my guns, a Beretta, from my gun collection. And second, I was supposed to invite Jacob Bennett to my yacht, the Hepburn, at the Midlands Marina at 10:30 p.m. on June 16, 2008. And he said that he would take care of the rest.
Now, did you agree to do as Miss Owens asked?
Yes, I'm sorry to say that I did.
Now, Miss Maxwell, did you and Miss Owens discuss further about your plans for the night of June 16, 2008?
Yes, we communicated entirely through text messages. We had a prearranged code, and we deleted all text messages immediately after sent and received.
And did you talk to Miss Owens the day of the murder?
Yes, I did. I sent Jackie a text message. telling that I had left my gun.
Objection, Your Honor. Rule 1002, to prove the contents of a document, that document has to be produced by the state. We ask that the exhibit, the text messages, be entered into evidence for this witness to testify as to their contents.
What's your response to that?
Your Honor, my witness is testifying to some text messages she personally received.
Counsel, why do the text messages fall under Rule 1000, the 1001 series?
Your Honor, the text messages are essentially a document, therefore they fall under Rule 1002.
And you're saying these aren't a document at all?
I'm saying these are messages she received by her phone.
Your Honor, it's still a document.
Well, I think things can exist as documents and exist as other things, and that doesn't mean that they have to be documents. So I'm going to overrule it. Do you have a different objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to overrule that objection.
Your Honor. Ms. Maxwell, directing you back to my question, did you talk to Ms. Owens the day of the murder?
Yes, I did. I sent Jackie a text message, and in our code, I was telling her that I had left my gun, a cheetah Beretta, in the load rack, and it was fully loaded, and confirming the time of Jacob's arrival at 10:30 p.m.
Did Ms. Owens respond to this?
Yes, she sent a text message back reminding me to tell Jacob to meet below deck.
So, Ms. Maxwell, what did you do the night of June 16th, 2008?
My husband Bobby was out of town, and I couldn't stand to be alone, so I decided to see a movie. I printed off my ticket online at around 10 p.m. for the 10:25 showing, and then I drove directly to the movie theater.
And what time did your movie end?
It ended around 1 a.m.
So, Ms. Maxwell, after your movie ended at 1 a.m., did you hear back from Ms. Owens?
Not right away, so I sent her a text message asking if everything had gone according to plan, and she confirmed that it had.
Ms. Maxwell, could you please tell us what happened the next day?
Well, the next day, Jacob was reported missing, and the police wanted to talk to everyone at Trifecta, including me.
And what did you tell them at this time?
I told them that I had a meeting scheduled with Jacob, but he had canceled at the last minute, so I decided to see a movie instead.
When did you hear that the police had found Mr. Bennett's body?
When the police showed up on my door on July 9th.
What was your reaction to that, Ms. Maxwell?
At first, I thought it was best to keep my mouth shut. But then I thought about Jacob's wife, Mariah, and how it had been their 20th wedding anniversary the day that Jacob had gone missing. And that's when it got to me. Jacob sure could be difficult sometimes, but Mariah was never unkind to me.
What happened after that, Ms. Maxwell?
I came clean and told the police everything about Jackie's plan. What I did was awful, and I wish
Objection, Your Honor. This answer is completely non-responsive.
What was the question?
I asked what happened next, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained. The testimony will be stricken.
Yes, Your Honor.
Could you please clarify one time what happened after that? Or what changed your mind?
What was the question?
What happened after that, Ms. Maxwell?
After I realized what I had done, I told the police everything, and I told the truth because I want to make up for what I did, and I wish I could take it back.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Maxwell, you did not see Jackie Owens at all on June 16th, did you?
I saw her at work, but not at night.
Not at night. And you claim you weren't at Midlands Marina at all that day?
No, I was not.
So you did not see Jackie Owens kill Jacob Bennett, did you?
No, I didn't.
Now, you claim that you discussed killing Jacob Bennett through a series of text messages, correct?
That is correct. Also in person.
You claim that these text messages were in code?
Yes, we had a prearranged code because in case anyone found our text messages, we didn't want it to look suspicious.
Not a single one of those text messages specifically talks about killing somebody, do they?
In code, yes, they did.
Not a single one of those text messages has the word gun in it.
No, like I said, we had a code so that people, if they found our phones, then it wouldn't be suspicious. But
Ms. Maxwell, is that a yes?
I'm sorry, what was
Is that a yes? Not one of those text messages had the word gun in it?
No, but we had prearranged that gun meant a different word.
Ms. Maxwell, not one of those text messages had the word kill in it, did they?
No, but like I said earlier, kill was a different word.
The only way this jury has of knowing that those text messages were encoded all is because you say so.
Yes, and I'm telling the truth.
Now, on direct, you told us about a conversation you had with Miss Owens in your office, correct?
Yes, she approached me.
You say that she showed you the partnership agreement of Trifecta Entertainment.
Yes, she did.
Now, I'm showing opposing counsel Defense Exhibit A. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Maxwell, this is the partnership agreement of Trifecta Entertainment, correct?
Yes, it
And
is.
you, of course, read through this.
Yes.
You signed it at the bottom here.
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense offers Exhibit A into evidence. Its authenticity has been proved.
Any objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted.
Ms. Maxwell, you claim that Jackie Owens circled paragraph 17, correct?
Yes, she did.
Oh. Paragraph 17 says that in the event of the death, incapacity, or extended disappearance of a partner, the shares of that partner will be split among the remaining members in proportion to their respective shares, and extended disappearance shall be any period of time exceeding 3 months, correct?
Yes, that's what it says.
According to the partnership agreement that you and the rest of the partners of the Trifecta Entertainment signed, if the partner disappears, their shares aren't split for 3 whole months.
That's what the partnership agreement states.
So if a partner disappears, the 2 remaining partners couldn't do anything with the company for 3 whole months.
Yes, but Jackie explained to me that if a person disappeared and they called a meeting, then they could vote to accept it.
Maxwell, nowhere in paragraph 17 does it talk about calling a meeting, does it?
No, but earlier in the thing it does.
So that's a no. Nowhere in paragraph 17 does it say that.
No, but Jackie explained to me that the point of her plan was to make Jacob disappear, and in the partnership agreement, it does explain that if that happens, then they could call a meeting and vote to accept something.
Just to clarify, in the partnership agreement, it specifically says that it would take 3 months for the 2 remaining partners to do anything, correct?
In provision number 17, yes.
All right. Now, you said yourself that it doesn't make sense for Miss Owens to have wanted Jacob Bennett dead, haven't you?
Yes.
You even asked her, what's in it for you?
Yes, I did.
It was you, not Miss Owens, who had only 5% of Trifecta, correct?
Well, yes, because I was not as well known at the time.
That's right, it was you, not Miss Owens, who was taunted by Jacob Bennett for 6 years, correct?
Yes, but this is Hollywood, and you get tough skin in this industry.
It was you, not Miss Owens, who was humiliated by Jacob Bennett in front of your cast and your crew, correct?
Yes, but humiliation would never lead me to murder.
It was you, not Miss Owens, who Jacob Bennett treated like dirt, correct?
He didn't treat me like dirt, but he didn't treat me with the most utmost respect.
He didn't treat you like dirt, as you said in your witness statement?
I guess so, yes.
No. You wanted to renegotiate the partnership deal with Trifecta, correct?
Yes, I thought that would be fair.
You proposed this idea to Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
He had a controlling interest, and he refused, correct?
Yes, he did.
And there was nothing you could do.
No, there was not.
You arranged a meeting with Mr. Bennett on your yacht, the Hepburn, correct?
Per Jackie's request, yes.
You arranged this meeting with the purpose of killing Jacob Bennett, didn't you?
Not me personally. All I know is Jackie wanted me to invite him to my yacht.
Ms. Maxwell, I'll rephrase the question. You arranged this meeting with the purpose of causing Jacob Bennett's death, right?
Yes, I did, and I regret that with all of my heart.
And it was on your boat that this meeting was supposed to take place?
Yes, it was.
On the night of June 16th, you told us that you were at a movie, correct?
Yes, I was in a
You
movie.
printed off a ticket off the internet, right?
Yes, on my home computer.
You took that ticket to the movie theater.
Yes, I did.
Once you got there, that ticket wasn't scanned, was it?
No, it appeared the scanners were broken.
So there's no record confirming that you actually went to that movie, is there?
Well, there was a person looking at the tickets before we went in.
So there's no record, is there?
Oh, no, no record.
You also went to the movie in disguise, didn't you?
Yes, I didn't want to deal with autographs and paparazzi.
On the night that you were arranging a murder, you deliberately made it so that no one could recognize you, didn't you?
Yes, this was standard procedure for me.
So not only is there no record confirming you were there, but there's no person who can confirm you were there, is there?
Not to my knowledge.
After you helped kill Jacob Bennett, the police questioned you, correct?
Yes, they did.
And you lied to them, didn't you?
Yes, I thought it best to keep my mouth shut at the time.
Even though you were lying to the police, you still didn't implicate Miss Owens, did you?
No, because I knew if I implicated Miss Owens, then it would probably come back on me, so I thought it best to keep my mouth entirely shut altogether.
Eventually you say the guilt got to you. You pled guilty to criminal facilitation, correct?
Yes, and I'm taking responsibility for my actions.
You signed a plea deal as part of that guilty plea?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what has been marked as Defense Exhibit B. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Maxwell, this is your guilty plea, correct?
Yes, please.
You've read through it, of course.
Yes.
And this looks like a fair and accurate replica.
Yes, it
And
does.
this is your signature at the bottom.
Yes.
And this is your attorney's signature.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense offers Exhibit B into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
It will be admitted.
Now, according to this plea deal, you pled guilty to criminal facilitation and murder, correct?
Yes, I did.
It says here that the state recommends a punishment of 15 years.
Yes, it does.
I want to talk to you about the requirements of this plea deal. Read silently as I read along in paragraph 3. It says the defendant, Casey Maxwell, has accepted responsibility for the defendant's criminal actions and has so agreed to assist the state by providing a statement of what the defendant and Jackie Owens did resulted in the death of Jacob Bennett, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So according to your plea deal that you signed, you must come here today and tell this jury what you and Jackie Owens did to cause the death of Jacob Bennett, correct?
Yes, and there are also other stipulations involved in that.
According to your plea deal, if you don't tell this jury what Jackie Owens did to cause the death of Jacob Bennett, it'll be revoked, won't it?
Yes, but I also have to tell the truth.
If your plea deal is revoked, you'll be charged with first-degree murder, correct?
Yes, that is true.
According to the plea deal that you signed, punishment for first-degree murder is 20 years to life or life without the possibility of parole, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Maxwell, I just have a few questions for you. Did Ms. Owens discuss with you as to why she was so eager to take the offer?
Yes, she did. She reminded me of what happened to her Aston Martin car. All 4 tires were slashed. And she told me that would be her next if something didn't change and fast.
And Ms. Maxwell, referring to the text messages that you and Ms. Owens exchanged, why did you two have a code in the first place?
We didn't want to just be openly talking about killing someone. It would not be smart on our part.
And Ms. Maxwell, had you not been arrested, could you have called, would the two of you have been able to call a meeting to accept the dealing lens offer?
Yes, had I not been arrested, yes.
And one last question, Ms. Maxwell. Could you please explain to the court what some of those stipulations were in the plea deal that the opposing counsel asked you about?
Yes. One of the most important things is I have to tell the truth in here today. And that is what I'm doing. I'm telling the truth about Jackie's plan and my assistance in it.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Recross.
Very briefly, Your Honor. Now, had you not been arrested and you would have tried to accept the plea deal, it still would have, sorry, not the plea deal, dueling lens deal, it still would have taken 3 months to accept that deal, correct?
I'm sorry, can you restate the question?
It still would have taken 3 months to accept the dueling lens offer? According to your partnership agreement?
Yes, I guess so.
It would have taken until September of 2008 before you, Jackie Owens, could do anything with the company, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Is the state ready to call their final witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Calling Dr. Lee Jordano to the stand. Would you please introduce yourself to the court?
I am Chief Crime Scene Investigator Dr. Lee Jordano.
Would you please tell the jury a bit about your educational background?
I earned a double major in criminal investigation and chemistry, and then I attended MIT, where I earned a PhD in chemistry.
What does your work as Chief CSI involve?
I do everything from collecting and analyzing key pieces of evidence to interrogating major witnesses.
Have you testified as an expert witness before?
I have testified as an expert witness over 24 times.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to tender Chief CSI, Dr. Lee Jordano, as an expert in criminal investigation and chemistry.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
The jury shall consider him an expert in those categories.
Dr. Jordano, how did you begin your investigation?
Well, my investigation is rather complicated, so I prepared a timeline of it.
Your Honor, permission for Dr. Jordano to step down and make use of a demonstrative?
Any objections?
No, Your Honor, I simply ask that I be allowed to reposition myself to view this
You may.
demonstration.
Now, Dr. Jordano, what was the first step in your investigation?
I spoke with Trifecta Entertainment employees on June 17th. I was unable to reach Jackie Owens, and Mrs. Maxwell gave me a movie ticket to prove she was not at the Midlands Marina.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
Granted.
What is this, Dr. Jordano?
It is the movie ticket that Mrs. Maxwell gave me.
And are you familiar with it?
Yes, I am. I took it back to the police station.
And what did you do when you took it back to the police station?
I put it into where we store all our evidence.
And is that a secure location?
It's very secure.
And can you testify with certainty that this is in fact a true and fair and accurate representation of that ticket?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time the state would move to enter State's Exhibit Number 2 into evidence.
Any objections?
Yes, Your Honor, this exhibit contains hearsay and is therefore inadmissible under Rule 802.
What's your response to the hearsay objection?
Your Honor, under the case law State v. Urban, since there's no human declarant in any pertinent sense inside of this ticket, then this would not be hearsay.
Your Honor, may I respond?
You may.
I believe that the case law that the opposing counsel is referring to ruled about a sign on a street. That cannot be traced back to a human declarant. However, a movie ticket can be traced back to a human declarant down the line with the programming, with the movie theater. Therefore, there is a human declarant in this case, and it's therefore inadmissible.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Opposing counsel's theory of State v. Urban would in essence say that since the sign had to be written at some point by a person, then that too would have a human declarant behind it. The issue is whether or not the original statement has a human declarant in a pertinent sense, as State v. Urban states, which this movie ticket does not.
I mean, this is a movie ticket, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. The objection is overruled.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, could you please read the date of purchase of that movie ticket?
10:02 p.m. on June 16th.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness to retrieve the evidence?
Granted.
Now, Dr. Jordano, what was the next step in your investigation?
I examined the Midlands Marina on June 19th.
And what did you find there?
The first thing I noticed was a long streak down the dock, indicating that something heavy had been dragged there recently. I then boarded the Maxwell's yacht to search it.
And what did you find on board the Maxwell's yacht?
I dusted for fingerprints, and I found prints for both Mr. and Mrs. Maxwell. But on the handrail leading up to the boat, there was another set of prints which at that time I could not identify.
After finding the fingerprints, did you notice anything else?
Yes, the whole boat smelled very strongly of bleach. Also, on one of the walls below deck, there was a stain that appeared to be blood. So I took a sample of the stain, which I tested later.
And what type of test did you use?
I performed a standard blood type test.
And what did that test determine?
The test determined that the stain was indeed blood and it was type AB negative.
Objection, Your Honor. Pursuant to Rule 702, before this witness offers any opinions about blood typing, they must lay the proper foundation that he relied on sufficient facts and data, reliable principles and methods, and reliably applied those principles and methods to this case.
What improper opinion do you believe he's about to give?
Well, he testified that the blood was type AB negative.
Okay, what's your response?
Your Honor, he's an expert in criminal investigation and a chief CSI, so he'll be aware of these types of techniques.
You know, I don't know about that, so I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm going to strike this specific part of the testimony dealing with blood type. And if you believe that he is qualified to test those types of tests, he's going to have to lay that foundation so the jury can understand why he came to that belief. So
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Dr. Giordano, did you use a normal type of blood test on that blood?
Yes, I did.
And is that the type of test that's reasonably relied upon by experts in your field?
Yes, it is, all the time.
And did your conclusions, were they based upon sufficient facts and data?
Yes, they were.
And what was your conclusion from that test?
That the blood was type AB negative.
And did you reach a conclusion about whose blood that was?
Yes, I did.
And what was your conclusion?
Based upon blood type analysis, I believe with a high degree of certainty that it was Jacob Bennett's blood.
Now, after finding that, what was the next step in your investigation?
I drove to the Maxwell's estate.
And what did you find there?
I investigated the whole estate very thoroughly, and I found absolutely nothing incriminating on the grounds or on any of the Maxwell's vehicles.
And did you learn anything else at the Maxwell's estate?
Yes, I did. I spoke with Mr. Maxwell, who showed me Mrs. Maxwell's gun collection. I noticed that a hook holding an '84 Cheetah Beretta was empty, and neither one of the Maxwells could tell me where the missing gun was.
What did you do after that?
I drove to the Owens estate.
And what did you find there?
I spoke with Tony Simmons, who was Owens' driver and was employed by Owens and lived on the estate, about June 16th.
And what did you learn from Mr. Simmons?
Objection, Your Honor, this question calls for hearsay under Rule 801.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Your Honor, under Rule 801 D2D, this is an admission by a representative or employee of a party opponent, and as such falls under the admission by party opponent rule.
What's your stance on that?
Your Honor, I stand by my objection that this is still hearsay and inadmissible under Rule 802.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Dr. Jordano has already laid the foundation that Mr. Simmons was employed by Jackie Owens, and as such he would fall under 801 D2D.
I mean, do you have any response to that specific hearsay exception he's relying on?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. What did you learn from Mr. Simmons?
Mr. Simmons told me that he usually drives Mrs. Owens in a Bentley, but on the night of the 16th, Mrs. Owens decided to drive her Maserati alone.
What did you do after learning that from Mr. Simmons?
I examined the Maserati very carefully. I noticed there was a lot of mud on the side panels, on the tires, and on the floor inside the car in front of the driver's seat. I took samples of this mud, which I tested later. The trunk was also unusual. There was no blood, dirt, hair, or fibers, and it smelled very strongly of bleach.
Now, did you talk with Mr. Simmons about the trunk of the Maserati?
Yes, I did. He said that on the morning of the 17th, Mrs. Owens approached him and told him to clean the trunk fast and do a good job, or he would be fired. He also said that Mrs. Owens would not tell him why he had to clean the trunk.
Now, you stated that you tested the mud. What type of tests did you use?
I performed soil and chemical composition tests on the mud.
And what did your chemical composition test determine?
My chemical composition tests determined, well, the results were mostly unremarkable, though it did contain 1.4% calcium carbonate, which is unusual in Midlands.
And what did happen next after you analyzed the mud?
Several days later, I realized that the largest source of calcium carbonate nearby was the Calkins Cliffs, right next to the Midlands Marina. So we began searching there.
And what did you find in the Calkins Cliffs?
A spot near the base of the cliffs immediately seemed suspicious. It looked like someone had dug there recently. So we began searching at that spot.
Did you find anything there?
Yes. Shortly thereafter, we found Jacob Bennett's body.
Did that dig turn up any other information?
Yes. I took samples of the mud around and near the burial site. And my tests later confirmed that the mud at the burial site and around the burial site was fully consistent with the mud that I found on Mrs. Owens' Maserati.
What did you do after finding Jacob Bennett's body?
I attended the autopsy, which was performed by Dr. Prescott Ooms, the medical examiner, who confirmed that the deceased was indeed Jacob Bennett.
Your Honor, retrieving what's been previously entered into evidence as State's Exhibit Number 1, permission to approach the witness.
Granted.
What is this, Dr. Jordano?
It is the autopsy report.
And are you familiar with it?
Yes, I attended the autopsy.
Now, according to the autopsy, how tall was Jacob Bennett?
He was 62 inches tall, or about 5'2".
And what color were the clothes that he was wearing?
He was wearing black clothes.
Now, what did Dr. Ooms determine to be the cause of death?
A single gunshot wound to the chest from short range.
And did Dr. Ooms recover a bullet?
Yes, and I was later able to analyze it.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness to retrieve the evidence.
Granted.
And what were your findings for that analysis?
Based on the highly distinctive grooves on the bullet, it must have come from one of 3 guns.
Objection, Your Honor. Before this witness offers his expert opinion, they must once again lay the proper foundation under Rule 702 as to the facts and data that he relied on and the methods and principles that he used.
Your Honor, I can lay further foundation.
I'm gonna need both the facts and data and the methods and principles to make sure we hear that on the record, because I have a feeling I know what he's gonna testify to, so the objection is sustained.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, what type of test did you use on the bullet?
I performed partial ballistics analysis.
And are you familiar with that type of test?
Yes, I do it all the time.
And is that the type of test reasonably relied upon by experts in your field?
Yes, it is.
And did you base your conclusions upon sufficient facts and data?
Of course, yes.
And what were your conclusions?
Well, my conclusions were that it was a very distinctive bullet. It had very distinctive grooves. So it must have come from one of 3 guns. A PX-4 Beretta, a Beretta 9mm Series 92, or a Cheetah Beretta.
After learning that, what was the next thing that you did?
I obtained a warrant to search Mrs. Owens' estate. Based on the information we received from Hunter Baxamusa, I wanted to determine what type of headlights were in Mrs. Owens' Maserati.
And what did you learn?
The headlights weren't purple xenon, but the standard yellowish-white halogen bulbs.
And did you examine the bulbs themselves?
Yes. I took them back to the police station, where I used a standard barcode reader, which indicated that their date of production was June 22nd, 2008, 6 days after Jacob Bennett's disappearance.
And did you then go to Miss Maxwell's estate?
Yes, I did.
And what did you learn there?
I told Mrs. Maxwell that we had traced the murder back to her, and then she broke down and confessed that she and Jackie Owens had plotted to kill Jacob Bennett so they could take the dual lens off.
Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay testimony under Rule 801.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
Your Honor, Dr. Jordano is simply testifying to what he learned in his investigation, and also likewise, Casey Maxwell has already said this exact same thing on the stand.
No, it's still hearsay, so the objection is
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Dr. Jordano, did you arrest Miss Owens?
Yes, I did.
And what did you learn, and did you interrogate her?
Yes, I did.
And what did you learn in that interrogation?
Although she initially denied it, she eventually admitted to over $5 million to different casinos and bookies.
And what is your ultimate conclusion in this case?
I am completely convinced that Jackie Owens killed Jacob Bennett.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor. Permission to dismantle the demonstrative?
No objection, Your Honor.
Commissioner Rader.
May I return to the stand?
You may.
Thank you.
May I proceed with cross-examination, Your Honor?
You may.
Now, Mr. Jordano, just to be perfectly clear for the jury, you were not at the Midlands Marina on June 16th, 2008.
I was not.
So you have no first-hand personal knowledge of Jackie Owens being at the marina that night.
I do not.
In early July, you were convinced that Jackie Owens was behind the disappearance of Jacob Bennett.
That's where the evidence was pointing to, yes.
Well, let's talk about the evidence. You admit that at that time you had no body.
No, I did not.
You admit that at that time you had no proof.
No, I did not.
So, as the chief crime scene investigator in this case, you were convinced Miss Owens was guilty before you had any proof to back that up.
Well, proof is it's hard to say. I have my reasons, but I can't go and arrest somebody without very, very, very strong proof. So I had some things, but not enough to actually arrest her.
Didn't you just say that you were convinced Miss Owens was guilty before you had any proof?
Substantial proof. I'm sorry, excuse me.
So the answer to my question is yes?
To which question?
That you were convinced Miss Owens was guilty before you had proof to back that up.
Substantial proof, yes.
Okay, well, let's talk about the evidence that you found that you believe connects Miss Owens to the Midlands Marina. Now, you found soil on and in her car.
I found mud, yes.
You don't consider yourself a forensic geologist, do you?
Not particularly.
In fact, your only education in soil analysis is a 3-hour seminar.
Yes, an FBI seminar.
Let's talk about what you found. Now, you can't tell this jury when the mud got on Miss Owens' car.
I cannot, no.
You can't tell the jury for sure, conclusively, that the mud on Miss Owens' car definitely came from the base of the Calkins Cliffs.
Not definitely, no.
You also told us that you noticed a smell of bleach in Miss Owens' trunk, right?
Yes, in her Maserati trunk, yes.
You tested that bleach and determined it to be oxy bleach, right?
That is correct. Yes.
You know that that's a common household product.
Yes, it is.
Now, you also know that bleach generally can't eliminate all traces of bloodstains.
It generally can't, but if a sufficient quantity was used, it is possible that it could eliminate all bloodstains.
It's possible, but just to be clear, you never found any traces of bloodstains in Miss Owens' trunk, did you?
I did not. No.
You did find blood on Casey Maxwell's boat, right?
Yes, on the wall.
It was type AB negative blood on the wall below deck.
Yes, that's correct.
You couldn't directly connect that blood to Jacob Bennett, could you?
Not directly, but with a very high probability because the blood type is so rare in this population.
You couldn't DNA test the blood?
No, it wasn't sufficient to do a DNA test.
You don't know what other people of type AB negative had been on Casey Maxwell's boat?
I knew the Maxwells were not type AB negative blood.
Well, that didn't answer my question. You didn't know what other people who had type AB negative blood had been on Casey Maxwell's boat?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Now, you know that Jacob Bennett was shot, right?
Yes, based on the autopsy report.
If he was shot below the deck of Casey Maxwell's boat, his blood would have gone everywhere.
That is a possibility.
Well, you know that the bullet pierces aorta, right?
Yes, based on the autopsy report, yes.
So you agree that that would cause blood to go everywhere.
That is a possibility, yes.
But other than that one speck of blood that you found, you never found any other traces of blood on the boat, did you?
No, but lots of bleach.
Now, in the first week of your investigation, you spoke to Trifecta employees.
Yes, that's correct.
When you spoke to City Michaels, you learned about grudges that people had against Jacob Bennett.
Yes, I did.
She told you about Midland's entrepreneur, Ronald Victor.
Yes, that's correct.
She told you about actor, Josh DeSmith.
Yes, that's correct.
She even mentioned Alex Grace.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yeah.
Pursuant to Rule 801C, this testimony is not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, simply to show the steps in Lee Jordano's investigation and the holes in his investigation.
Well, right now, I haven't heard any statements, just that we're getting a foundation as to who he talked to. So I'll overrule the objection at this point. But if you feel a statement comes in that qualifies, then object.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. You never looked into those three people yourself, did you?
Not personally, but I assigned one of my best officers, John Costin, to look into them, and his investigation turned up absolutely nothing incriminating on any of those three suspects that you mentioned.
Well, nowhere in your witness statement do you mention following up with that officer.
Yes, because it was so minor. They were very initial suspects. And my concentration on Jackie Owens led me directly to Jacob Bennett's body. So,
Now, isn't it true that you included every significant conclusion and every significant observation in your witness affidavit?
that is correct.
So you didn't feel it significant to include that you were able to rule out these three suspects?
No, because my investigation of my primary suspect turned up the body.
That didn't answer my question. You didn't feel it significant to include that you ruled out these three suspects.
Objection asked and answered, Your Honor. The witness already said no to the question.
What's your response, counsel?
Your Honor, I don't believe that he clearly answered the question. I was simply clarifying for the jury.
I don't think he answered it the way he wanted him to, but I don't know that he wasn't clear, so I'm going to overrule. I'll sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, let's talk more about Ronald Victor. Now, you know that not only did Ronald Victor have the motive, he also expressed intent to kill Jacob Bennett.
I know he expressed intent to kill Jacob Bennett.
Your Honor, I'm now showing opposing counsel what has previously been marked as Defense Exhibit D. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Jordano, this is the letter that you recovered in this case from Ronald Victory to Jacob Bennett.
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense moves Defense Exhibit D into evidence.
I object on hearsay, Your Honor.
What's your response?
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 803.3, the statements are statements of intent from Ronald Victory to kill Jacob Bennett.
What's your response?
Your Honor, this is simply a statement of threat towards him. There's no direct expression of intent by it. And furthermore, there's no way to authenticate that Ronald Victory, in fact, was the author of this. Opposing counsels lay no foundation that Ronald Victory is the author of this alleged letter.
Let's respond to that part of the objection. What authenticity do we have that this person actually wrote this letter?
Your Honor, pursuant to the special instructions in this case, every exhibit is agreed upon and agreed to be authentic.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
That stipulation only states that the exhibits themselves are authentic. Opposing counsel has left to the conclusion that the author of this letter was Ronald Victory. There's no foundation that's been laid for the jury to demonstrate that Ronald Victory is in fact the author of the letter.
Is it your position that the letter itself could be considered authentic without also the author being the actual author?
Your Honor, we would argue that while it may be that the letter itself is an authentic copy of the letter recovered during the investigation, that there's no way that we can know that in fact that Ronald Victory's signature is authentically Ronald Victory's, which is what opposing counsel is arguing.
Well, I think the special instruction means that these documents are what they purport to be. So under that reading of it, I'm going to overrule your objection, and the jury can consider it, however, give it whatever weight they want to.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. In this letter, Ronald Victory explained that Jacob Bennett was making an expose about him.
Yes, right here, the expose, this expose, yes.
He explained here that he was willing to do just about anything to protect his reputation.
Yes, yes.
He said, "You might ask others who once sat in your shoes, but I'm afraid they are now and forever will be unreachable." Isn't that what it says?
Yes, that's what it says.
He said, "So allow me to be blunt. Cease and desist with this expose, or those near and dear to you won't be able to find your body." Isn't that what Ronald Victory wrote to Jacob Bennett?
Objection, Your Honor. This question calls for speculation. There's Dr. Jordano. There's nothing here as foundation that Dr. Jordano would know that Ronald Victory is the author of the letter.
The objection is overruled.
So,
Would you please re-ask the question? Sorry.
so Ronald Victory wrote to Jacob Bennett, "Cease and desist with this expose, or those near and dear to you won't be able to find your body."
That's what's written in this letter, yes.
You know that Jackie Owens had some gambling debts, right?
Yes, over $5 million.
You believe that those debts gave Jackie Owens the motive to kill Jacob Bennett.
Yes, a possible motive, yes.
Your Honor, I'm now showing opposing counsel what has previously been marked as Defense Exhibit C.
Okay.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Jordano, this is a check written from Jackie Owens to United Way of Midlands.
Was that a question?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It appears to be.
And this check was written in June 2008, correct?
It appears June 6, 2008.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense moves this exhibit into evidence for the purposes of impeachment.
Your Honor, there's no way this is an impeachment. I object on improper impeachment. There's no prior inconsistent statement.
Well, yeah, what do you mean by impeachment, counsel?
Your Honor, this witness testified that he believed that Jackie Owens had enough gambling debts in June 2008 to provide her with the motive to kill Jacob Bennett. This goes to show that she had enough money to donate $50,000 to charity.
Well, that may be, but I think it's improper to enter under this witness. So I'm going to sustain the objection. I don't think it's impeachment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may it be entered simply for general purposes?
No, it will not be entered into evidence under this witness.
Yes, Your Honor. You spoke to Casey Maxwell twice during your investigation.
I believe it was 3 times, actually.
Okay, well, the first time you spoke to her, she lied to you.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
She didn't tell you anything to implicate herself.
No, she did not.
She didn't tell you one thing to implicate Jackie Owens.
No, she did not.
The second time you went back to her, you lied to her.
In what way?
Well, you told her that you traced the murder back to her.
That was the 3rd time.
So the third time, you lied to Casey Maxwell.
Yes, I was trying to get her to confess.
So you told her that you traced the murder back to her.
Yes, I did.
And only after you lied to her about your evidence did she confess to what she allegedly did.
I had some evidence against her. I had the bullet analysis, which I knew matched her type of gun that was missing.
Well, only after, that didn't answer my question, only after you lied to Casey Maxwell about the evidence that you found, that you traced the murder back to her, did she allegedly confess to what she did.
Yes, that's correct.
Only after you lied to her about your evidence did she try to convince you that she and Jackie Owens orchestrated the murder of Jacob Bennett.
Yes, that's correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
All right, the witness is excused. We'll take a break at this point in time. Let's have everybody back in here ready to resume at 20 after.